So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and their challenges and what's really driving them forwards. And today I'm delighted that we have back with us Claire Agutter, who's director at ITSM Zone and Scopism. So firstly, Claire, thanks so much for spending a bit more time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and your businesses to the audience, what you do and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Thanks so much for inviting me back, Chris. It's lovely to be here again. As you said, I'm Claire Agutter. I'm based in York in the UK, and I've been running my own businesses for more than 15 years now. So we're focused in the tech space, and everything we do is about how do organizations get more from their IT investment. So we've got ITSM Zone, which is a training business, and that's focused in the service management space. We've got courses like ITIL and DevOps to help organizations get those digital skills that they need and that's so important. And then we've got Scopism, which is very much focused in the sort of supply chain management, vendor management space. So we specialize in something called service integration and management, which I'll refer to as SIAM from now on because it's a bit of a mouthful. But basically, SIAMs come from the fact that IT supply chains in particular are so much more complex now. So if you've got 15, 20, 200, 500 companies that are involved in your IT service creation and delivery, you need a way to make sure that everybody plays nicely together and you get value for money from the contracts that you enter into. So Scopism's focused in that SIAM space. We write books, we work with training organizations, we run conferences. And again, it's helping organizations get value for money from IT.
Wonderful. And I'm sure so relevant both now and historically and moving forward with the rapid change of so many things going on. And so we spoke last year, and I'm keen to know what's changed for you in the business since we last spoke.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've seen changes in both industries. So I'll kind of cover each of them. And I think that the first one is the changes in the training industry. And I have to confess, I haven't rewatched the last episode, so I might even be contradicting myself here. Who knows? But I think the training business that we have is self-paced e-learning, and we've always been e-learning. We've never done any classroom training. But the courses that we offer are kind of industry accredited certification courses. So ideally, at the end of a course that we sell, somebody takes an exam, they get a certificate that they can put on their CV, and it helps them get that job or it helps them get that promotion that they wanted. And I think that the biggest shift we've seen in the training industry is the move from, here's your training allocation. It's 3 days a year. It's one training course that we're going to send you on. That's shifting very much to micro learning and continual learning and a real focus on kind of lifelong skill development. And I think a lot of that is now more in the hands of the individual than the employer. So we don't see people sitting around, waiting for the manager to say, you're going on this course this year. They're actually out there seeking information, seeking ways to learn. And I think there's kind of a trend that we see there, which, affects sales, it affects what we do, it affects what we develop. But overall, I think it's a really positive trend. And I think the training industry, as perhaps we know it, is going to transform massively, and the focus is really going to change.
Wonderful. That I can see that being really interesting, and I've experienced that working with organisations where the organisations also encourage it, so that it's almost like, as you said, here's a budget for training that you feel you need, rather than we feel you need. If that makes sense. So go out there, we'll support it, and in some cases it doesn't actually have to be vocational. It can be anything that just interests you as a way of engaging. But people are so keen to learn, aren't they? I think the thirst for knowledge is absolutely increasing, not decreasing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the the other changes that we see, so moving to the scopism side of the business, so that's kind of, it's a business basically built around intellectual property. But what we found with scopism is, I suspect the two trends are linked, because what we've found with scopism is we've published books. We've worked to develop a certification scheme which is available around the world, and again, what we're getting now is people coming to us to say, this is great, thanks very much for the book, really enjoy it, but I want to talk to somebody about this, or I'm seeing this in my job. How do I, question about this? How do I share the lessons that I've learned maybe? So our big project for Scopism this year is actually to launch a community, because we have professionals coming from all over the world, at all stages in the career, and they're asking us, where do we get together to learn? And again, it's that move away from, well, we do a conference once a year, to, well, actually, we're going to give you this platform, and it's going to allow you to connect, to learn, to grow as an individual, working with other practitioners from around the world. So that's a huge focus for us. And again, I think it's about the individuals taking ownership and responsibility for their own development. And maybe that's linked to the wider workforce trends that people don't expect a job for life anymore. What they want to do is move around, maybe have multiple engagements at the same time. They want to freelance, and this is giving them a space to do that. It's giving them a space to learn, and it's giving them a space to kind of showcase what they do as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a big thing in what Action Coach is promoting, is the idea of community, as you said, a community of business people, and just that, the sharing the knowledge, sharing successes and challenges as well. I think it's a bit of a lonely gig being a business owner in many ways, and just being able to talk to other people, and what we found, and I really love it, Claire, is that we make sure people celebrate their wins, because most entrepreneurial people are focused on what's yet to be done. And having people share a win, somebody on the same table will go, "That's amazing." Yeah. And they don't, and then the person sits back and go, "Well, I hadn't thought of it like that. I just thought I'd just done that." And so, and that's the value community, isn't it? Sharing and supporting. So that sounds wonderful. So in the last sort of nine months or so, 10 months since we last spoke, what are some of the key challenges you've experienced there?
One of the biggest challenges that we've had is we've had quite a lot of personnel change within the team. So we're a small team. Quite a few people work across both businesses, and most of them had been involved with the organisation for sort of 5+ years. But we work virtually, globally distributed. And in the last 9 months, we've had our marketing lead resigned to take another job. She's gone to be head of digital somewhere, which is, I'm over the moon for, it's a fantastic opportunity. And it's something I think you have to recognise when you are a small business, that the opportunity for people to grow can be a bit limited. So we lost our marketing lead, and also our sort of customer engagement lead went off on maternity leave as well. We're hoping she comes back, but with the twins, I think she's got her hands full right now. So it's not something we've had before. I think that's kind of 20% of the company changing at one time. So the impact of that was actually really quite large, and in one way we were protected to a certain extent, because we don't have particularly direct employees. So both of those employees were part of an outsourced contract with an organisation that uses resources based out in Macedonia. So to a certain extent, we had that protection of knowing that, well, actually, our service provider is on the hook to replace those people for us and to provide that continuity of service. But at the same time, it is still a huge challenge, because they're not just dropping somebody straight in with all of that knowledge. So there's been, I think, a bit of a learning curve there, just almost a reminder about how to build a team in a distributed way, so that the sort of the regular communication that we have has been so much more important, because we always have, you know, virtual team meetings, we've got Slack so that people can chat during the day, and it's just, I think some of the things that you kind of take for granted that they're just running and they're okay, we've had to look at again and go, okay, we need to be much more deliberate about these while we bring these new people into post. And, you know, the people that we've got in those posts now are absolutely fantastic. The attitude and the positivity that they've brought is amazing, and then it's just bringing them up to speed with how we do things as a business. But that's been quite a significant challenge, and I think it's one of those things, you know, you think, oh, what now, but actually seeing it as a positive as well, because it's fresh perspectives coming in, and that's always helpful, I think.
Yeah. Yes, it is, isn't it? It's how we approach things ultimately, isn't it? Clearly, that would be a challenge for anybody, losing a couple of senior people like that. But yeah, there is also always some benefit, and a fresh pair of eyes, I guess, it can be really useful. So looking on the flip side of the coin, what sort of some of the key wins that you've achieved over the last 10 months?
I think the biggest win has been our new product strategy moving towards community, because of where we sit in our industry, we have had some bigger organizations coming to us and saying, you know, can we work with you? Can we do some co-branded case studies and white papers and you know, push those out to the network? And we were kind of thinking about that and thinking, yeah, you know, we can do this as an ad hoc service, so we'll charge you X amount of money to do a white paper with us. But the more we thought about it, we thought, actually, there's something bigger we can do here.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's have a community. And the model that we want to adopt is to have the membership to be free, so that anybody can join. You know, if you're a graduate, you can join. If you're really senior, if you're moving into the industry, everybody can join. And in order to make that happen, because obviously, you know, there's costs associated with this, we've gone to those companies that have been approaching us and said, sponsor it. You know, come on for a year as a sponsor the community, enable us to do this. And I guess the approach for them is that this then becomes a strategic marketing partnership. So rather than just, here's a white paper, it's, well, we're going to work with you for a year. And actually, if you've got case studies to share, we'll help you write those, we'll publish them, they'll look amazing, and we'll share them with our community, because then it's a win for everybody who's in the community, and it should be a win for them as well, getting their name and their brand identity out there as a thought leader. Because I still think there's a lot of bad, I guess, content marketing out there. There's a lot of organizations that, you know, start with the sales pitch. And I think if you start with the value and the content, the sales pitch comes later and people are interested. Whereas if you're straight in there with, you know, here's our software, this is what it does, buy it, nobody cares and people switch off. So I'm really positive about this. We're launching on the 5th of July. So we've got our first sort of big piece of research that comes out in the community at the same time. So at the moment, everything's, you know, platform evaluation, sponsor recruitment, getting the word out there, user research. There's an awful lot going on, but I'm really positive about this, and I think it's going to be brilliant for the community, and just really help keep moving SIAM on as well, because you know the tech industry does not stand still. So having the book that we wrote a few years ago is great, but you know, what does that mean in an agile world, a DevOps world? What does it mean for digital transformation, cybersecurity? We can work on all of those areas now.
Brilliant. Yes, we have to keep moving, don't we?
We do.
Just been in a conversation about the impact of AI on all of this too. It's just and in fact, the CEO of the company said, you know, from his perspective, you know, this is this is another internet, if you like, impact potentially. but so yeah, be exciting to see. We must catch up again, as we say, in a little while. So how I guess it's a two-part question, but how good are you, or how have you celebrated your wins, and how good are you at doing so? Because that's one of the challenges we find with people.
I gotta be honest, I am rubbish at celebrating wins, like really, really, really bad. I have a mindset where I'll get to the end of a project and I think, right, that's done. What's next? And sometimes I have to really sort of force myself to take a pause, and whether it's go out for dinner with my husband, have a nice bottle of wine, go for a little holiday, have a break. I try and do it, and I try and do it for the team as well, because
Yes.
I sometimes have to remind myself that, I know we've all done this collectively, but I'm running off thinking like, what's the next big thing? And the team are tired and happy and all the rest of it too. So it's trying to think of things we can do with the team as well, and just bring them with us. But I would say in general, I am pretty rubbish at celebrating wins. I can look back at last year and think, all the things I did, published a couple of books, ran a virtual conference, launched some training courses, this, that. And you just think, yeah, it's a pretty normal year,
It's really you hit the nail on the head in a couple of ways for me. Because firstly, is even if we not very good or choose not to celebrate, our team, as you say, they worked hard, they delivered.
Yeah.
They're all going, we're waiting for that sort of moment, and if we as their leader, if we're not giving them that, then that's a challenge. But the other part of this is, and we find this quite a lot, is that because as entrepreneurial people, we're often focused on what's yet to do and what challenges we have. Without celebration is the foundation of part of it is why we're doing it, and actually we are quite good at this. And if we're not celebrating, then when we do have difficult times, it doesn't give us as much as a support if we haven't done the celebration. And it's something we do a lot, is just say, look, whatever it is, anything, let's make sure we celebrate something certainly every session we have with clients, but we actually get every meeting they have. The last thing on the list is, what's the celebration? What successes have we had this week?
That's a nice idea.
It's really cool. It's just like we run something called Lions for any meeting structure could work. So which is last week, issues, opportunities next week, what we're going to do, and then S is successes. And it sometimes is as simple as got through the week, but it can be anything. And for me, it really does lighten that tone of everything we do, because everything is now focused on a success. And even if we're not as good at it, or even feel it's not as important to us, it will be to some of the people around us, I guess. So, excuse me.
Yeah, we've got in our Slack channels, we've got a wins channel in there, and that's a kind of a similar idea. And right. some of those are tiny. We've just started early bird ticket sales for our conference in November. So the help desk lead, whenever the ticket sale goes through, is like, yay, we sold another ticket. That's 7, 8 now. And some of it's, some of it's big. We got a massive purchase order kind of thing. But yeah, you can forget, I think. And I do think there's a real risk as an entrepreneur or a business owner of a sort of a creeping burnout, because you are chasing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I think I mentioned on the last episode that we were acquired back end of 2021. So Dave, who's my co-founder, and we're now on an exit path. So we have a defined end date. And one of the things that I see there is kind of a real danger that we just flog ourselves right up until this end point, because you've got this fixed point. Yes. But of course, we still need to look after ourselves along the way. And you're focused on your exit, you're focused on your final valuation. But it's I think sometimes, it might be your friends or your family who say to you, I think you need a holiday now. But it is, you know, it's easy to just carry on. And I think my husband, he's my co-director, he had some surgery earlier this year with a sort of a 6-week rehab time. So he was out of the business for quite a long time, or just doing little bits here and there. And I think that the kind of the lesson that he took away is, actually, I can take some time off. You know, the world's not going to end. The business didn't catch fire. Everybody just got along quite nicely without me. So, you know, maybe forcing yourself to take a bit of time out is an interesting little experiment.
It really is, and and as you rightly say, for me, you know, self-care is so important because, you know, we are amongst the most valuable assets in our business.
Mm-hmm.
So looking after ourselves is absolutely key. Like we would, you know, we'd maintain a piece of machinery, or we would do other things, or as we probably also do, look after our team.
Yeah,
and we remember that team. But no, absolutely, it's quite fun. I do find often, because I do challenge business owners to do so, and they say, well, what happens if everything goes wrong? And often I say, yeah, but what happens if everything goes right?
yeah.
Because that's probably going to happen. Yeah, and it's but it's a challenge because they, you know, we're so invested in our businesses that there is that fear. But yeah, sometimes taking the superhuman gear off and just saying, well, I'm going to take a bit of time is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking at those wins and challenges the last sort of 9 months, what are some of the key learnings that you've had over that time?
Gosh, that's always a difficult question, isn't it? Sometimes I wonder if I learn anything. um, big learnings for me. On a very personal level, reminding myself of the connection between body and brain. One of the things that I did in lockdown was a lot of walking, long distance walking, and there is a real, you know, when I'm in a high stress period, there's a little voice in my brain that says, oh, you know, you need to eat some chocolate, or you need to go to the pub. And it's switching off that voice and going, actually, I need to get out and have a walk. And even to the point where I've been having walking meetings with some of the staff that I'm kind of local with, and just getting out and getting fresh air. So that's a very personal level. And, you know, that may not be something that resonates for everybody. On a bigger level and a business level, I think that the key thing for me has been reminded again of the just capacity that people have to want to share and want to be involved in something. So, you know, we expect input from our teams. We don't necessarily expect input from people outside of our organization, but as we talk about launching something like a community, we get so much enthusiasm and desire to be involved from people, you know, all over the world, different types of businesses that may be, you know, competitive to each other in the marketplace. And I think it comes back to this sense of purpose that people need to have in or associated with what they do. So, you know, we all have jobs, and if we're lucky, we work for a company that has a purpose and we understand that purpose. You know, for us, it's very much about getting the most out of IT and technology and helping people through the content that we provide. But having that purpose, people want to get involved. And I think sometimes you can become a bit insular and a bit cynical almost. But once you open up that conversation, just the responses that you get are phenomenal. And that's a lesson that I think we can all kind of be reminded of, because no matter what industry we're in, there will be some kind of community, there will be some kind of industry body, there'll be a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group, and people will be sharing freely. And that's such a tremendous thing.
Yes. And I guess allied to that, I think certainly, I think sort of a lot of the research talking about sort of the younger workforce. There's very much a big piece around contribution being as important, if not more important than reward. And it's sort of, you know, am I doing something of value in some way? And I think that fits with sort of being part of a community. I feel it's you know, am I giving as well as receiving knowledge and skills?
Yeah. And I think as your career progresses, how you input changes. So, you know, for people early in their career, it's brilliant to receive, and you can be a sponge and learn from people. But then as you mature, you start to share. And as you become more and more advanced in your knowledge, you will be sharing probably more than receiving. And I think that's an important part of our growth as professionals, is be able to receive, to learn, and then to transmit that back to other people.
Yes, and I think a really useful part of creating a community is that there's this funny thing that most people feel uncomfortable approaching someone that they perceive as more successful or more advanced, and yet most of those people definitely want to give back. So I think a real valuable part of a community is creating that environment where you can start to go and have a chat with them, that they want to help you. And it's a given. It's almost like a rule of the game of building community, that you can help each other. Whereas if an individual felt that somebody in another organization could help them, it's often really unlikely they directly approach them. And yet, even if they, in general, I mean, something I was taught a long time ago, most successful people love helping other people. And so, even if I've never met somebody, approaching them for a bit of help is absolutely something that is normally well received. So you probably remember from last time, I love to collect great quotes and sayings, or just quotes and sayings that people use a lot. Are there any? Don't worry about if you repeat what you said last time, but is there anything that you use on a regular basis?
And I think last time I went, but the one that I said last time, and it's still something that is incredibly useful for me, is stick to your knitting. And it's it's so tempting, particularly in a small business, to try and do everything, and leveraging professionals will save you so much time, so much money, so much headache. For the community launch, we've got internal marketing capability, but we want to do some PR alongside it as well. And, none of us really know anything about PR. So I'm engaging with PR companies now, and I'm expecting that the connections and the knowledge that they bring to sort of accelerate the value from that, even though we'll be paying specifically, whereas quite often as business owners, we're very poor at costing our own time. I'm expecting huge benefit from that. And I can't remember if I said this last time, maybe I did, but the other one that we try and live by as a business is that improving daily work is more important than doing daily work, which is something that comes from the DevOps community. And the first time I heard that, I went, is it? But I think it sort of creates this constant sense of reflection. Everything we're doing, should we be doing it like that? Do we need to do it all? Could it be automated? Could it be delegated? And I think it gets you out of that rut of just doing the same things over and over again. So everything that you're doing, could we do this in a better way, more efficient, more effective, whatever it might be? And it's a real good way to sort of get that continual improvement mindset into your business.
Really like that. I really like that. I was just working with the team this week, and we were talking about the requirement for the senior team to support the increase of profit through profitability, efficiency, effectiveness. And it's so easy, but they're under pressure to deliver work. So it is about having that grown-up conversation and saying, how much time can we commit to doing that in our working day, and but the value of that is incredible, because increasing profitability means every extra pound of turnover we get is going to be worth so much more as profit at the end of the day. But people get locked into doing the day job, often inefficiently, which is fascinating. No, I like that one. Thank you. Yes, I'm not sure we discussed about that one last time. And what else have you learned about yourself, Claire, over this last 10 months or so?
I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest change has obviously been having an exit date, and what that's now forcing me into is a period of reflection about where do I actually want to go with my career. Do I want to go anywhere with my career? You know, do I want to retire in 18 months? And I think initially, when you go through an acquisition, there is a kind of a big additional overhead in terms of, you know, due diligence. I've never been involved in something like this before, so working with solicitors, accountants, there's a huge amount of extra work, and in your head you're just thinking about exit as kind of a holiday, you know, yay, I'll get to exit and then I'll stop. But then as I start to think more, it's kind of, what is next for me individually? What's next for me and my husband? Because he'll be exiting at the same point. And one of the things is sort of looking at the industry that I've worked in now for more than 20 years and starting to understand, I guess, that there's people that I've had relationships with for 20 years. I've got people in my industry that I've had relationships that are longer than some of my really good friends. You know, there's people that I met before I met my husband. So some of it is thinking about, what does exit look like? Does it mean that all just disappears, or in a way do I want to maintain some of those relationships? And you know, some of it is kicking around new business ideas, but again, it's very similar to finishing a project and then jumping straight into the next one. I will force myself to take some time before I jump into anything else. I've got ideas that I want to do, but not necessarily things that I want to launch into immediately. So some of it's quite operational thinking. You know, I've got a fairly strong personal brand. How will I maintain that without being on social media every day, kind of thing? Is it a case of just keeping in touch with people at events, that sort of thing? And some of it is much more strategic. And I'm in a way, I'm quite fortunate because one of my friends has just retired she's 47. So she's going through all of this 18 months ahead of me. So it's very useful watching her and kind of learning from her journey. But there is, I don't know, there's a sense of purpose that we all have because we get up each morning and we run our businesses, and there's elements of not doing that I'm hugely looking forward to, you know, not constantly checking emails, not being available, not doing VAT returns, that kind of thing. It's like, yay, great. But then I'm still relatively young. So what do I want the next stage of my life to look at? So I don't know that there's any particular lessons to be learned there. But I think, you know, for anybody else looking at a potential exit, you do have to start thinking about, what does that first Monday morning look like? What will I do when I wake up? And you know, what will give me that sense of purpose when I don't have the purpose of running my business anymore?
Bang on. That's I would suggest it's a really valuable learning. I've helped quite a few people exit over time, and what I've found is that if we don't have a plan for the next stage, then driven people that are used to achieving things, the idea of doing nothing, is abhorrent. And in fact, you know, I have actually seen people sabotage their exit from a business because subconsciously, because they feared it and they couldn't wrestle with that. So being clear on what that looks like is really key, even if it is a commitment to do nothing for as many weeks or months as you choose. And I have said to people, look, you're frazzled, just give yourself a break for long enough time and things will come to you. that process. But that in itself is an activity of doing less, if that makes sense. It's a conscious decision, because without some form of plan, I really seen people really struggle. Really struggle to come to terms with it, and it's I think a lot of people see retirement as an end rather than the beginning. And it really should be, because most people start businesses for lots of reasons, but the common goal amongst most people to start business is what happens after you've exited. It's we're going to do some fun stuff while we build this thing, but most people it is, and when we've made this, we're going to do this. So it's really important, and that's why we often do what we call an alignment very early in the business process, of aligning the business goals to the personal goals of its owners, so that they know what they're delivering. The business is going to give them the life to choose. But we have to work that one out, and so few people actually think about what that life wants to be like. It seems nuts, but it's quite cool. So, I mean, obviously, you've got the exit coming in terms of the future, but what other things do you see happening in the future of the organisation, and what are the main challenges you face, if any?
I think the training business, the challenge there is to make sure we stay aligned with what the market wants. A lot of the courses that we offer are based on other people's intellectual property, because it's accredited training. So there's kind of constant transformation that's happening there that comes through, that requires updates. But the sort of the big change I see there is that the education that we deliver needs to be much more aligned to people's career progression. So, you're not taking one certificate and that's good for the next 10 years. This is what you need to focus on in year 1, and then year 2 and year 3 as you develop. So some of that will come from the certification bodies that we work with. Some of it, I think, can come through more customized training that we deliver. And a lot of that has to be linked to what do employers want, what are human resources looking for, and what do organizations need. So, for example, one of the short courses we've launched recently is about intelligent use of data. So if an organization trains everybody in this course, they can be fairly confident that the people in their organization understand how to collect data, how to use data in a way that is aligned with, the legislative requirements that we all have now. So I think that the training business will evolve as the market evolves and as people's needs evolve. And then from the Scopism side of things with the community, again, we will be evolving, but it'll be driven by the community. So we can track the community and see the questions that people are asking. We can see the hot topics that people are talking about. And then maybe in response to that, we publish material. We create case studies, we create additional sort of guidance for people. And we continue to kind of build from that. So I see it very much as a kind of a reinforcing cycle, is that, the community's talking about this, we can add value to them, which then creates more debate, and it'll kind of progress from there. So I think, big potential for both organizations. And we can't stand still, can we? We've always got to be changing.
Well, certainly you can't. And I can see that's, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see that innovation and that ongoing development. And I know that the community, the thing you're working on at the moment is probably the main thing. And are there any other new big initiatives that you're likely to be launching over the next year or so that we maybe should be looking out for?
It's quite a niche one, but we're working with ISO, the International Standards Organization. Okay. They're publishing a guidance paper on SIAM. So for any organizations that are going down that ISO route, there will be some formal guidance coming through. And that's, I've got to be honest, I've not been day-to-day involved with that one. It's been the ISO committee that's been working on it with help from some specialists in the industry, and I've just dipped in and out when my sort of opinion's been needed. But that's a huge step in terms of kind of the sort of the standardization of what we do. So like I say, it is niche, but it's an exciting one for us.
Wonderful. We'll keep an eye for that. Well, Claire, thank you so much for the time today. It's been fascinating again, and it's amazing how much can happen in just 10 months. I so appreciate it, and hopefully again maybe we can swing by again in another 10 months or so and just see what's going on. And for anyone that's watching that would like to get in touch with you or either of your companies, what would be the best way to do that, Claire?
So I am the only Claire Agutter in the world. So find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter at Claire Agutter. Drop me a message. Happy to talk to anybody about what we do. And thanks, Chris, again for the opportunity.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Claire. And good to know I know somebody that's the only one in the world. That's amazing. Thank you.